Last summer, the Gwinnett County Board of Elections selected Zack Manifold to serve as the county's election supervisor. In his role, Zack is charged with leading the Gwinnett County Voter Registration and Elections Office. That's a big responsibility. It's a pleasure to have him sit down with us to talk about the work underway for the upcoming election season. Welcome to Better Together, Zack.
Oh, thanks for having me. I always love to talk elections. I'm excited to be here.
All right. And also, if I haven't told you already, again, welcome. And I say that because I know I met you a couple of weeks at one of the trainings that we had for the poll managers or poll officials. I understand that you came to Gwinnett most recently from Franklin County in Ohio.
Yep.
How has it been settling into your new community?
Oh, it's been great. The family, it's been smoother than I think we ever could have imagined. It's been, the schools have been great. My wife's a school teacher. She's out there substitute. She's gonna start teaching at some point full time, but just loves being here. And you can't beat the weather. I haven't put on a coat yet, and I'm watching my phone and all my friends back home with all their winter clothes on. It's been pretty great.
Yeah, Georgia weather is interesting, and we really don't have a long winter. It might seem like 3 or 4 weeks, but it's summer again. But if you had time, what's been your favorite thing to do in Gwinnett thus far?
Oh, that's an easy one. The parks. Gwinnett's parks are just outstanding. The Parks and Recs department. My kids have been doing swim lessons, baseball, flag football, just all the different events that are going on at Gwinnett's Parks and Recs department. We love it. It's been great. It's been great to just be active and get involved. And then I love to be healthy. So all the trails to go out and walk.
We have a lot of trails.
We do. So it's been great. I love it.
Okay, so you joined the county with a wealth of experience in working in elections. Tell us more about your professional background.
Yeah, so I always tell people, after I graduated from The Ohio State University, go Buckeyes.
Well, wait a minute, I have to stop you here. This is UGA, University of Georgia country here.
So
I'm from North Carolina.
We're pulling for you. We're pulling for you. You're playing that team up north that we don't like very much. So I saw they started crossing out the M's across campus this week. I'm excited. I can't wait to pull for the Bulldogs in their game.
Okay.
But after graduating from Ohio State, my first job was right in the legislature working on election law, and Ohio had a meltdown in 2004 in our election process. I stood in line for like 4 hours to vote, I think. And after you have one of those experiences, I think it really motivates you and changes you about, boy, we need to do something better. And I just happened to be lucky that I got a job in the legislature, ended up on elections. My boss was working on elections committee.
Wow.
We went to work in a bipartisan manner, which was amazing. I think it passed like 90 something to 5 or something like that. But we redid all of Ohio's election laws in 2005, 2006. Went to a no-fault absentee voting system, and that really just kind of changed the dynamic of Ohio elections. I think probably 50-60% of the vote comes in early now there, and I think you're starting to see that here in Georgia as more people move towards either vote by mail or advance in person. Mm-hmm. It just relieves that stress of election day, and anything we could take off the election day stress in the system so that you don't have those meltdowns is important. So, worked in the legislature. I tell people I'm kind of unique for an elections administrator because I've kind of seen all the different parts of elections. Okay. I was in the legislature. I did it on the campaign side for a number of years. I worked with hundreds of candidates that were running for office. So kind of learning, what it's like to file to run for office. Our candidates, they invest a lot of money. They put a lot of their time and their effort into it. And it's important that we remember that. Yes. And so did that. Went on. I actually got appointed I was a board member in Franklin County. I served a term 4 years as one of the board members. So I kind of have that unique experience having to work for my board. I know what it's like to be a board member. I know what it's like to kind of hire someone to run the day-to-day operations and invest in them and trust in them. And then also so after I was done with the board member, I loved elections so much that they offered me the job to run the absentee mail and absentee in person, essentially, in Franklin County. And so I did that for another 4 years, served as an interim director up there for the 2016 presidential election. Mm-hmm. It was very smooth, went really great. Just loved elections.
Let me ask you a question on something right quick that you said before, because I know that you have a wealth of professional experience. When you said that you helped write the election law, do you think that would help you in understanding the new law that we have here, the SB 202? Do you think that it's one of the strengths that you will bring in understanding how we carry that out in a way?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think, because I have that experience in Ohio, also all the elections jobs are, you have a Democrat and a Republican for every job, right? So it's we had 22 Democrats, 22 Republicans in our office, and so you have to work in a bipartisan manner. You have to be, invested in that, and I think part of that kind of teaches you how do you work to make elections, fair and accessible and open and secure, and you do it in a bipartisan manner. And really, when you're talking about elections, I always tell people, because it's such a hot button issue, it's really about best practices. If we can get away from what does this policy help, or who it helps, or whatever, or some sort of perceived perception that something helps one group over another. If we can get back to what is a best practice in elections, what makes for smooth elections, what runs a smooth process, which I think really, if you start talking to people, that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants a smooth election and a smooth process that they could feel confident and secure in. You can look around the country for that, and that's kind of what we were doing in Ohio for a number of years. Is what are really best practices that you can put in place that will just make everything run so much smoother.
So, what do you think the role of an election supervisor is then? Because you bring in all the wealth, like I said, and your expertise, but now let's talk specifically about the role of the election supervisor.
Yeah, so the election supervisor, the day-to-day running of the election, voter registration elections office. Our goal, commitment, that open, accessible, secure election that we want the constituents to have confidence in. I run the day-to-day operations. We have, voter registration, absentee and advanced voting department. That's our largest department. They're basically processing. People don't realize elections are going all the time. Just because there's only a couple elections a year, that department is processing hundreds of registrations a day. And there's always people moving or processing, and we're updating and clarifying records. So that department's always very busy. But we also have, our elections team, which is always making sure people are in the right districts and make sure that they're, registered, that we have your street address. We're looking at the streets, making sure what side of the street are you on, or do we have you in the right spot? That team's very important. They're going to have a big role to play here soon. And I'll also say our warehouse team, right? So our warehouse team, we've got, thousands of pieces of equipment that all year long, we're testing, we're powering them up, we're testing the batteries, we're making sure we're always running through cycles every quarter. We got to go through all the different equipment and make sure that everything's running smoothly, so that when we come to an election day, everything's ready to go.
So recently we had in Georgia the municipality elections. Did we play any role in that? Did the cities have to send our staff any information to confirm? Sure.
So as the county registrar, we work with each of those municipalities to make sure that they have, the most update register electors list. And so they're constantly contacting us back and forth to make sure that, that they have those lists, that they have what they need to run their election. We do have five of, I think it's 16 municipalities in the county actually sign an intergovernmental agreement with Gwinnett, and they do use our voting equipment. We just got everything back this week. Everything was, we appreciate our partners. Everything came back, I said, damage-free and all the chain of custody, and they did a great job of taking care of the equipment while they used it. But that's always great, those partners that we can help support them through their process and running smooth municipal elections. So.
Yes. And so as I mentioned in your introduction, you were selected by the Gwinnett County Board of Elections, not the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners, we are responsible for your salary, correct, but the Board of Elections actually does the hiring per se. So what do you think about that division in that particular? What is the Board of Elections, and what role do they play in local elections?
Yeah, so I think probably the most prominent thing that the board does is especially in a large county like this, is hire my position, election supervisor that's there every day, that's overseeing the operation. We have 35 full-time staff members. We have a couple part-timers, hundreds and hundreds of temporary and seasonal employees when we have them. So making that decision, we have 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and then those 4 members pick a 5th member. And so, that board, it also, they certify the vote. They make, when somebody has to cast a provisional ballot, they make the disposition of the provisional ballot or a challenged voter that goes before that board to make a decision. They set some election policies, although that's just less and less, as more of it has been legislated. They don't have a whole lot of policy that they set, but it's still there in some ways. So yeah, the board is always. They also they review precincts. They review precincts, and because of our size, they do vote on setting precincts. But then because of our size, they actually go to the commissioners for final approval. So they do that as well. And then they also sign all the polling location contracts. So making sure that we have the right amount of polling locations and getting all that set up.
One of the things too, when they select that 5th person, here in Gwinnett County, that name has to be sent to the Superior Court judge who actually appoints that person to the board. Right. So, and I'm saying that just as a clarification to our listeners, because we don't want them to think they just choose among themselves. It actually is a process that has to be appointed by our state legislation, as far as for the Superior Court judge actually has to appoint that person to that board. So it's going to be interesting dynamics because you have new people on the board as well as yourself. I'm looking forward to just a wonderful relationship, but this is a tough season that we have approaching. And so in Gwinnett, we're fortunate to have numerous opportunities to register to vote. If I wanted to register today, where would someone go?
I always say the library is a really easy one. People usually know where their library is. You can always go out to your library. We have registrars at the libraries. We have registrars at the schools. We have a really great partnership with Gwinnett County Public Schools that they make sure that all the school buildings have registrars. So you can always go to a school building and get registered. I always say the easiest one probably today is if you have access and you can go online. If you go to that My Voter page, the MVP page, through the Secretary of State's website, that is super easy.
Yeah, it's very easy.
And it's very important that people, I think, get used to that page because there's so much there. There's sample ballots, there's check your registration status, make sure your address is up to date, make sure all your information's there, check on your absentee ballot status. All of those things are there. So I always try to promote that if you can also get registered there. So you can do everything on that website, the MVP page, My Voter page. So I think that's always a good place to start if somebody's looking to get registered.
When we started this, I'm going to say calendar year, the Board of Commissioners and myself, one of our initiatives was around language equity access. And we want to make sure that all eligible voters have access to participate in elections. And that's a top priority for our county government. We really want that. What does providing language access in elections look like in Gwinnett?
Yeah, so this is, I was really excited about this. This is one of the reasons actually I applied for this job.
Okay.
I tell everybody, I think the diversity of Gwinnett is so unique. It's so amazing. It is our strength. I was excited about applying for this because of that. And so we're really excited at the elections office. We have what we call our language equity project that we're kind of working on. It's going to roll out over the next few months and then through 2022. But we've been getting a lot of basically information and materials that we use in elections and getting those translated and ready to go out into those diverse communities that we have. We're going to set up collaboration groups that people can join if they're interested. It's coming soon. We'll have a process for them to join one of the collaboration groups. They can, we're going to expand to Korean, Vietnamese, and Mandarin Chinese. We're going to be.
So the languages will be in English, Spanish, and then those three.
Correct. So we have the Spanish, the required Spanish, which that's so important. We make sure everything goes out. Everything we do is translated into Spanish. But yeah, we're adding Korean, Vietnamese, and Mandarin Chinese.
Is that going to be added on the sample ballots, or is that going to be added in the actual ballot?
So it will not be on the ballot yet. I think, I think long term, hopefully we get, I think that is a vision that we all have long term.
But wouldn't that come from the Secretary of State's office?
Yeah, there's just a lot of process and things
okay.
to get to that down the road. But as much as we can get up to that, I think as much as we can translate and get elections materials and information translated and out into those communities so that they, can have that access. We are talking about sample ballots is definitely something we're looking at. Can we do those translations too? So I mean, as far as we can go, and as much access as we can give, I think that's our top priority. So we're excited. We're going to set up these collaboration groups with members of each of those communities, and really we're looking to make sure. Sometimes translations aren't perfect, right? Just because you paid somebody to translate something. So making sure that the translations that we get, are proper for those communities to make sure that they make sense. But then also, partnering with those communities and those collaboration groups to take what we've done and go out and make sure we're identifying meetings and events and places that we can be in front of those groups and make sure we're getting that information out there and getting that feedback on how we can, make elections more accessible. And then also the other part is we really need help on poll worker recruitment, right? So we want to make sure, if we can get bilingual poll workers, that's golden to us. The more we can get that's a priority. So I think those different things that we're going to be working with the collaboration groups on, we're really excited about.
So what about if someone call in with a question? Will we have people will we have a line that we could transfer to where citizens who may speak another language primarily be able to ask questions that if it's in Korean or Chinese or anything like that? Yeah. Is that our goal too?
Yeah, I think so. We are also looking at that on the hiring end. Okay. So I mean, we have Vietnamese employees. We have obviously we have Spanish-speaking employees. I think we're always looking to diversify our staff too, so that we don't even have to go out to some sort of service or try to get a translator. The more that we can just get that in-house, and that especially those large groups here in Gwinnett. We're always looking to ways to make sure that we're serving the public.
So I've been a poll manager myself in an election official over 10 years ago. And I remember that we had a lot of training and a lot of going on site to make sure that we were comfortable with the site. We looked at all the equipment, made sure we had all of the connecting parts. With next year being such a huge election year, what other preparations are you making or are underway now for our staff as we get ready for those elections? Yeah,
so we're excited. We've been doing with our area managers and our poll managers. We've been doing these. I think you mentioned it earlier. These we're calling them serving up knowledge events. We started that. That was new. We've been doing for the last month or so. We just finished the third one. On Tuesday, and it's really great. It's just a way to kind of get everybody together before we just get all the way down to training, in March and start with training. Trying to get all those poll workers, get those people together, especially our management team at each of the locations, making sure that they know, what are the latest changes, because there have been a significant amount of changes with SB 202. And make sure, and then also just kind of skill training, talking about what does a leadership look like, and how conflict management, because you need to know about conflict management when you got people coming in, and it can be contested, just a very hot environment. So how do you deal with that? And so we've been doing those, things coming up. Redistricting's coming like a freight train. I tell everybody, late January we'll probably, we'll start getting those maps and where everybody needs to be put into redistricting. Like I said, I think we have 90,000 street segments in Gwinnett that will each need to be looked at. So that is a very long process for us to make sure that we get everyone into the proper, we call them combos, combination of districts and into the right assignment for their polling location and districts.
So on that note, is there a goal that we complete as soon as we receive the final maps from the redistricting process, which may be January, February, as you mentioned, once it's signed by the governor. So once we receive that, and we know that the legislation session is scheduled to end in March, can it be extended? So how soon after you receive that final map will we actually look at looking at the final precincts, or really not looking at it, but will our residents, our voter residents, will they actually receive any updates like within, like how soon, because primaries will be approaching that May?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So we have to have everything done for qualifying in early March.
And
That's when because qualifying starts, candidates are coming in, they want to know what district they're running for, so it's got to be set there. But it is quite a long process for us to make sure we get everybody into those right districts before that. The residents will receive a card. We'll send out a card of like, hey, this is your new districts, or this is. Okay. They will get a district card sometime in that March, April. Once all the districts are set, once we can get everybody in the right spot, there will be some sort of notification. In the early spring.
I think that statement right there, many people will find very comforting to know that they will be told where they need to go before May. So thank you. In addition to voting, there are a few other ways Gwinnett citizens can participate in elections. When we return, we will talk about one of the most popular ways to help with the elections process and earn some extra money.
Hi, I'm Courtney Spencer, Community Outreach Programs Coordinator. Happy Black History Month. This year's theme is Black Health and Wellness, recognizing the legacy and impact of Black medical professionals and healthcare practitioners. Celebrate all month long by celebrating the many contributions Black Americans have had in healthcare and by taking steps to improve your personal health and wellness. Then join us for our annual Heritage Night celebration on Thursday, February 24th at 6 p.m. at the Gwinnett Justice and Administration Center. Enjoy great food, performances, and hear from county and community leaders. For a listing of community events held throughout the month, visit GwinnettCounty.com and follow the county on social media at GwinnettGov. Also throughout February, the atrium of the Gwinnett Justice and Administration Center will feature a self-guided exhibit curated by former Atlanta Hawks player, sports commentator, author, and historian Mike Stringer-Glenn. The exhibit showcases the history of Black Americans like Frederick Douglass, Jackie Robinson, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and more, told through stamps. Hope to see you around. Now, back to the conversation.
Thanks for sharing those announcements. We're back with Gwinnett County's Election Supervisor, Zack Manifold. At the end of 2021, your office was heavily recruiting for citizens interested in helping at polling locations across the county. What is a poll official and what do they do?
Yeah, poll officials, that is the glue that holds everything together. I tell everybody, what a dedicated group of people. We cannot make elections happen unless we have poll workers. I think it is a tough job. It is a long day, but I think it's very rewarding, especially people that have that civic, that civic duty kind of feel that they really believe and want to be a part of something great. It's a long day, but we have non-issuing clerks. Which kind of help people get in and out and around the polling location. We have issuing clerks, which is somebody that checks you in. If you have a provisional ballot, then make sure you get processed. Just getting you your ballot and getting everything underway. And then we also kind of have the management staff. We have usually an assistant manager and then a poll manager. So we have all those different steps. We're always needing people. We will take we will take please, if somebody wants to join, they can always go to GwinnettCountyJobs.com.
Is that a paid position? Or?
It is. So the pay range is anywhere from $175 up to $350, just depending on what you're doing in those different positions. So those are come join us, come get paid. That includes training, so there's also trainings involved with those as well, but yeah.
Okay. I remember years ago when I was a poll official, I had to come in, I think an hour before the poll opened, I think at 6, and we had to be sworn in. Is that still a requirement after the training, after you've been selected, the day of? Is that something that's, you take an oath for that?
Correct. And it starts at 5:30 now.
Oh, 5:30. Ooh, that's early. But
we got to make sure we got everything ready and set up.
Yeah,
so you have 5:30 is the start of the day. It's an early morning, but that helps just make everything smoother when we open up. But yeah.
So can anyone with any type of background do this, or what type of training? Is it virtual training? Is it in person? Is it on site?
Yeah, so anybody can do this. Like I said, there's different kind of jobs and
Sure.
kind of goals, and so maybe somebody might want to be a non-issuing clerk that just kind of helps people, get to where they need to be, helps maintain the line, helps get somebody, to the scanner, or those different. So there's always kind of different skills and different sets of skills that somebody probably can find their spot of what they like to do. A non-issuing clerk is actually just an online training. So
Okay.
That's kind of the most basic. It's all online for a non-issuing clerk. An issuing clerk, a little bit more involved. So you're coming in for one in-person training, one online training to kind of update you later on, and then the assistant manager and the manager, they have actually 2 in-person trainings and then 1 online training.
On an average, not to lock you into any set number, how many poll officials are recruited to work in an election? Because I know we have some that we actually recruit ourselves. I know that we have our small staff. I thought it was more than 35 people, but we have our staff. And then I know that we actually work through some temporary agencies too. So what kind of number are we looking for as we face this upcoming election in 2022?
Correct. So election day poll workers is usually up to maybe 2,000, somewhere in that
Wow, I didn't
1,500 to
realize it.
2,000 election day poll workers.
Okay.
We hire hundreds of temporary staff that help us during the season with anything from absentee processing to voter registration processing, all those different things. So we have those as well. And then you also have the AIP, advanced voting locations, where we got to make sure, for the 3 weeks out when we start advanced in-person voting, we hired those people as well for all those different locations. So we're always needing people.
Okay, let's talk about some of the items that comes from out of SB 202.
Okay.
One of the ones is the election drop box, ballot box.
Correct.
And perhaps I didn't say
Correct.
that totally right as far as for title. How would that work?
So each county gets each county, no matter the size, starts with 1 absentee drop box, and then you get 1 per 100,000 on top of that. So I think for active voters, so I think we're at like 570,000 approximately. So we'll get 5 more. So we'll have 6 absentee drop boxes around the county. We're looking at right around 12 advanced locations. So essentially the drop boxes will be at an advanced in-person voting
Last year you
location.
were not here and we had 23.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between 6 and 23,
So
but go
correct,
ahead. I
correct.
just wanted to say that's going to be an adjustment.
Correct. That is an
our-
adjustment.
For our citizens.
We will make sure as much as we can that we spread those out, make sure that we get those 6 placed strategically at those advanced in-person locations so that people don't have to go a really far distance. As you know, Gwinnett, it takes a while to travel around. There's traffic. So we'll make sure we spread that out and try to make it as accessible as we can.
So is that drop ballot box, is that outside or inside? I mean, what are some of the rules?
No, there are rules that it has to be inside, that it has to be under surveillance, and there's different rules that came about from SB 202 that it does have to be at one of those advanced locations and it has to be inside.
Okay, because I remember last time there was voting like this, we were able to drive up many of the residents and just drop them off. So now what I understand you're saying is that you have to park your car and then go into the building and drop it where it's under surveillance.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it will be available, essentially it's only available during voting hours.
So if we're open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., then a voting citizen can actually go in and drop it during that time frame.
Correct.
So if the box gets to be too full, are the ballots pulled out throughout the day periodically, or what?
Yeah, it would never get. I don't think we would ever see that. We definitely regularly make that check and that pickup so that we don't run into that situation.
And I'm asking again because if we're going from 23 down to 6, surely with the number that we had before, that they would actually. I just can see a box overflowing, but you're saying that there would be periodic checks throughout the day to make sure that they're taken. Okay.
Yes, we will make sure that we're clearing the box routinely. Yeah.
Okay, and then another issue that item that became an issue from the SB 202 was about we had volunteer organizations that would pass out water and that type of thing. What is Gwinnett County's position on that? Will we be able to pass out water ourselves, or how will we handle
I
that?
think we're still examining that. We're still trying to figure out, are there ways for us to provide water in a manner, we can't pass it out in line, but is there a way, to set something up where people can go get water and get back in line or something. So we're still reviewing kind of what can we do. Obviously, we'd love to provide, sometimes it gets hot, sometimes those lines get long. We want to, provide as much support to the citizens that we can.
Okay, great. So are there any important dates or deadlines that you would like to share with our listeners too?
Oh, without a doubt. I think the biggest change that I think people are going to see is one of the biggest is that change in the window for an absentee ballot application. I think people need to be thinking about you can only submit an absentee ballot application from the 70-day window. So the window is 78 days outside of an election at the beginning and 11 days prior to the election. So if somebody wants to vote an absentee mail ballot, they've got to get us that application in that window between 78 days and 11. And it used to be 180 days. So
Right.
that is a big change that I think voters need to be thinking about.
So will we have those dates listed on our website? Because again, I'm thinking of May being May 2022 being the primary period. So you're saying that from March or April, we'll learn where the new precincts are, and then we're talking about, having some type of elections in May. There seems like the dates will be really coming close. They were crossing over each other, it sounds like.
Yeah, somebody said to me the other day, just a couple weeks ago, is actually we were up to that 180 day, that we're inside that 180 days that they used to have. People used to be submitting applications already for that primary for next year. So, I think the 78-day window is somewhere right in early March.
Wow.
So I think people need to be on it. They need to be thinking about it. I always tell people, make a plan, have a plan to vote. However you're going to vote, make sure you have a plan and stick to it.
Okay. I had one more question around, I always have lots of questions, so I don't know if it's one more. There was a rule in the SB 202 that had to do with counting of ballots, that all the ballots had to be counted before a certain time frame, before 10 p.m. How will we do something like that when we have over 100 precincts?
Yeah, so that is one of the changes too from SB 202 is that we have to have kind of an outstanding count at 10 o'clock on election night. That we gotta try to know, how many provisional ballots are out there, how many cast ballots were there on election day. We have to try to get all that count in by 10 o'clock. We're working to try to figure out what that transmission of data looks like back to the elections office to make sure every location's getting us the best count that they can get. Is it my preferred manner? I don't think it's a best practice. I think that's a little bit early on an election night because people are still processing things and closing up the polling locations and trying to figure that out. I think that's a little bit early to try to take a best guess essentially of what's left. I don't think it's a best practice, but we'll make it happen. We're looking at
In
ways.
3 hours?
We're looking at ways to make sure that we have that transmission process to try to meet that new requirement. We're going to do our best, and we'll see where it goes.
If there was for some reason, a poll open late, whatever reason it may be, we're not wishing that on anything because, but in a situation like that, and we know a judge would have to come in and step in and extend the poll hours. If that was to happen in a situation, this example, so then would that 10 o'clock delay not personally, but would that 10 o'clock delay or time frame, would that also be extended?
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't thought about if we're open late, is that 10 o'clock, is it movable? My gut is probably no. My gut is the 10 o'clock's the 10 o'clock probably, but at least for all the other locations, right? I mean, maybe that location could give their data just as soon as they have it, but my reading probably with the law is that 10 o'clock requirement will stay.
So we know that in SB 202 there is a time frame, and we talked about it a few minutes ago. What happens though in a situation where through court order, one of the precincts has to stay open a little bit longer? Will that time frame of 10 p.m. still be applicable because of the extension that was done by a judge, because for whatever reason, and we hope nothing happens at any of the precincts, but if it does, what happens?
Yeah, I have not looked at that yet. That's an excellent question. My gut is probably the other locations we still need to make sure we're meeting that 10 o'clock deadline. Hopefully, I would imagine there'd be some forgiveness on whatever that one location is that needs to get their information in, especially if they're open a couple hours or some sort of time frame that's pretty long that could impact whatever that number ends up coming back at, and they may just not be ready at 10 o'clock.
Now, I would like to reiterate to whoever's listening, we do not plan for any of our precincts to be delayed in any way. We really do plan for everything to work smoothly at all 100 plus precincts. But how can citizens find out more information about dates and deadlines for the upcoming elections?
Yeah, I always say they can go to our website, GwinnettElections.com. You can always go to the MVP page on the Secretary of State's website. Like I said, I think in a lot of ways, that is kind of our preferred spot where we want people thinking about making sure they're checking that registration. Make sure you have your updated address in there. Make sure that everything is showing on that MVP, the My Voter page, is so important. And so I think those spots, if people go and look at those spots, they'll get those dates and make sure that they're on the right path to having that election plan.
One of the things we did last time that I thought was so good by our staff was on the elections page, the Gwinnett County elections page, we actually had a time that showed like how many people were standing in line at the different precincts the exact precincts that were open. And so will we keep that type of format? Because that was very helpful.
We will. We will still have that wait time for advanced in person. We will still have that out there. I was really excited when I heard that they did that. I think it's a great service to the constituents of Gwinnett. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing that.
You have reminded us of so many important details, and I know this year will be another busy year for you and your team. Thanks for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. We'll probably have you back, probably not during election season, but maybe right after that. So thank you. Is there anything else that you may want to say?
No, thanks for having me. I just, I think I love elections. I love to talk elections. I could go on forever about it. I always just tell people, make a plan, have a plan to vote. Make sure the earlier, especially as the deadlines and the windows are tighter this year, it's even more important that make a plan, know when you're going to vote, where you're going to vote. Make that plan. And then I'd also just tell people we have the greatest staff. I mean, we have an amazing staff. One of the things that has impressed me so much, is we have a very, I think, a lot of people that we're expanding. We've got a lot of folks that have less than 2 years experience, but we're training them. We're getting them to where they need to be. And they're really excited to learn, and they really believe in elections, and they want that open, transparent, accessible, secure. They're really committed to that vision and committed really to the Gwinnett standard of delivering an excellent service and elections to the county. So, we have a really great staff. I'm sure when people interact with our staff, they'll really be impressed. And here's to some really great elections in 2022. We're excited.
Well, those are exactly the type of poll workers and poll officials that we would like to serve our citizens, and it's great to hear that. So to keep up with new podcast episodes, follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or visit the podcast section of GwinnettCounty.com. You can also watch the video version of the podcast on TV Gwinnett and Vimeo. Until next time, always remember, we are much better working together.